If we want to live the life of our dreams, if we want to be on the highest timeline, if we want to be the future version of ourselves, that means our life needs to change now.
You can walk into a situation, assess it immediately, and be like, this is the version
I couldn't know more. I couldn't know more, honey. We as women are so intuitive, we're so psychic, we're so energetic that we can really read people and use it unconsciously for safety or acceptance or validation. We're never going to be living the life that's authentic to us and true to us if we are changing and shape-shifting for everyone else. In my process of my marriage, I was hiding so much. I was not speaking my truth. I was just hiding my greatness. That's why I'm just so passionate about the voice, because I feel like when women are able to use their voice, they're able to change the world.
This right here is one cheat code to embodying that part of ourselves that knows we're here to do something really profound. It's in this. Today we're talking about how to unlock the power of your authentic voice. And I'm joined by Krista Williams, who is co-host of the Almost 30 podcast. She's also co-author of their brand new book, Almost 30, A Definitive Guide to a Life You Love for the Next Decade and Beyond. And this was such a powerful conversation because if I think about it, all of us are almost something. We talk all the time on this show just about how there's this like future version of ourself that we know is available. We're all in the middle of becoming her. And we talk about how connecting with your truth, which is really the heart of your authentic voice, is the catalyst for you really embodying that version of yourself. So I know you're going to love this conversation with Krista Williams of Almost 30.
Hello.
Krista Williams, welcome to Powerhouse Women.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like we've already warmed up the tea.
We have. It's more than lukewarm.
More than lukewarm. This is my life. I drop into a situation and we're talking about the deepest thing that's ever happened to you.
Okay, I don't know this about you. I know you're a Pisces.
Pisces sun.
But what's your actual astrology?
Virgo rising.
For the girls who want to know.
Sag moon.
Okay.
So I got that that. I'm mostly Earth. I have 4 planets in Capricorn. Yeah.
Capricorn.
Yeah. You're
That's
Capricorn.
it.
My
Yeah.
Capricorn girly.
Yeah.
And then I have 6 planets in Earth, 4 planets in Capricorn. I have my Virgo rising. My Venus is in Taurus. And then my Pisces is kind of what brings the depth.
The depth, that's right.
Yeah.
I feel like in this stage of life, embracing, so we're just going deep into I don't even think I've talked about like my full astrology side, all of it on the podcast,
ready.
But this is going to tie into even some of the things we're going to talk about today, is realizing how so my rising sign is Scorpio, which is the depth. And that's the part I feel like I lean more and more into in this stage of life.
Yep. That's the thing when you go through something really challenging, really hard, when life is just lifing, you really do, because it just increases your depth, your capacity, your availability. You know, I find myself gravitating towards people that have gone through things, that have texture, that have like a flavor of intensity or a flavor of experience, because there's just so much more richness of ideas, of thought, of depth and interesting. Yeah, it's so much richer.
Yes. And those are my favorite conversations to drop into.
Yes.
Same. I feel like when you feel the permission that you're with someone who can just go there right away.
Yes.
You feel the contrast of it. And that's the thing that we're going to talk today about, so many different things. But the thing that I love when I hear you speak about is finding your voice, finding your authentic voice. And this ties in so much to what we're saying here, because I think I had a great connection to who I was and what I'm going to have you even define for us in a moment, what you call the authentic voice. But there was a depth that I was able to access because of everything that happened in my life over the last year, that once you reach that depth, you look up and you realize like, oh, that girl, that woman was so connected as much as she could be to who she authentically was. There was so much more. And I think it was hiding behind having to confront these masks and like the things that I didn't even realize because it was so even hidden to me. It was such a blind spot to me. So how do you define, I think this would be a great place to start for everybody. How do you define the authentic voice as you speak about it, the voice, and what, like, bring us into this world of what that means to you.
Yeah, the voice for me is just, it's like the linchpin to everything. It's the linchpin to your most abundant life, your deepest relationships, your fullest expression. It is the voice within. So it's your own internal voice, your inner critic voice. It's the voice of your soul. It's the voice of God. And it's the voice that you use in life to exist and experience what it's like to be a human. And I think we just overlook it because it's unseen. You know, we're focused on the physical, we're focused on what's here, but the voice is actually this like texture and vibration that reaches people. The voice is what moves people. Like our conversation right now was so beautiful that we had before and we will have right now because we're physically here, we can see each other, but our voice vibration is what's connecting us. Yeah. And so I think when we think about the best life, the most expressed life, the life that feels the most aligned, it's really about uncovering the voice. It's not about, you know, sculpting it. It's not about like creating it. It's about uncovering it. And what happened with you in this past year is you just got uncovered to the truth. You're like, I actually didn't see what was true. And my experience of the voice was, I was someone that grew up in a household that had a lot of, you know, chaos. So my parents really struggled with their mental health. So the way that I found safety was by being silent, was by asking questions, was by sort of facilitating connection through engaging with them about them, kind of narcissistic vibes. So most of my life, the way that I found connection was by making everything about everyone else, asking questions about them, really foregoing my own experience and who I was for other people. And so in my journey of really finding myself, it was really cultivating my relationship with my own internal world, my own internal landscape, so that I could express it to the world and the world could really know me. Starting the podcast years ago, almost 30, I really was able to use my gift of self-erasure, of getting curious about people to interview people. And now I'm in a phase where I'm really wanting to speak more about my truth and my experience. And so that's why I'm just so passionate about the voice, because I feel like when women are able to use their voice, they're able to change the world.
Agreed. Okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper in this whole concept, because I feel like the word authenticity is, you know, is kind of thrown around, and it's this thing we love to talk about. And then you kind of like are smacked in the face with like the inauthenticity. I think I keep just uncovering like these micro inauthenticities in my life. And what it has been for me are these places where I'm not telling the full truth, or I'm not showing my full self, because it goes back to what you're saying. It's the conditioning of, I know exactly what to present so that someone will like. It's actually maybe my superpower is I can walk into a situation, assess it immediately, and be like, this is the version
I couldn't know more. I couldn't know more, honey. So, and I can't wait till you, if you're dating or whatever that journry is. Girl,
I'm not, so everybody knows.
But this one is. So if you want a perfect example of that, date.
Yeah.
It's been beautiful. So I was married. I was in a relationship for a long time. I lost my voice in that relationship, have learned to cultivate it after. But in the process of dating, it's the perfect container for seeing that. I would go into situations with men and I would notice myself shape-shifting for what they wanted, who they wanted me to be. And we as women are so intuitive, we're so psychic, we're so energetic that we can really read people and use it unconsciously for safety or acceptance or validation. And I think when we can break that, when we can choose our own authenticity over that connection or over that attachment, then that's when we can really be ourselves. Because until that point, we really are just contorting and adjusting to everyone else's comfort and experience. And we're never going to be living the life that's authentic to us and true to us if we are changing and shape-shifting for everyone else. An example of this was last night. We were at Global Ambassador and we were sitting at this table. I think you guys had left. We were sitting at a table and this guy came up to us and was like, I'm going to buy you guys a drink, da-da-da-da. And I saw all my friends just kind of blinking, looking at him because we don't drink. So they were just kind of like, okay, he wants to buy us a drink. We don't want to be mean, but we're going to maybe just tell him to buy us a drink and then we'll sit at the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, oh yeah, you can bring us waters. And I'm just like, just bring us waters. They're like, I can't believe that you just told him to bring us waters. I'm like, I wanted waters. I'm not going to lie and be like, we want alcohol when we don't. Yeah. And it's those micro moments of like, this is my truth. This is my experience. It's not the norm. The norm is having this person buy us drinks because that's what you do. You drink when you're dating, you drink when you're out. It's really about these micro moments where we can be in our truth. But I think what you share is so powerful because so many of us lie to ourselves all the time, and we're living authentically. And I think once you can really see it in the micro moments, it can help you shapeshift to the bigger moments in life, which really makes the difference. Where do you find yourself doing that, I guess?
So that's interesting. I find even just like the thought of being back in a dating scenario. I haven't even really thought about it, much less talked about it on the podcast. So I think I'm still processing so much of the end of a 15-year relationship. So who I was when I was dating at that age, at 25, is so different than who I am at 41. And noticing little places where I am thinking the thought, oh, I wonder what, even just like the thought of entering into that world, right? I wonder what people want, which is the wrong question to ask. But you know where I notice it is like in little places where what is authentic to me now, what my truth is now, has changed. One place, this is just the first example that's coming to mind, is I grew up in the Christian church, grew up Lutheran. I always say it's like Catholic light. It's like less rules and we just pray right to the big guy.
Hey, man.
But
body and blood are real?
I
in
can't
the Catholic
remember.
Church, body and blood, they think body and blood are like real body and blood.
I don't think so. I think we're like, no, this is a wafer.
Yeah, honestly, this is wine and a wafer.
This is wine and a wafer. And I have that part of my life, my spirituality, my faith, and what faith even means to me has deepened so much. But I'll notice myself in certain places knowing that those people expect the Lindsay who just a few years ago was like very involved in a church environment. And that still is like so much a part of me. But I'll notice myself, I could go I could verse for verse. If you want to like, and I can do it, I can tap back into that identity, even though that identity isn't the truth of who I am right now, which if you ask me what that is, I'm allowing myself maybe for the first time ever in a faith context just to have more questions than answers. And that was so profoundly, honestly, it was like dysregulating to start to question that everything I built my whole identity on from like a belief perspective. I was having thoughts about, okay, well, what do I really believe now? And especially when something, I want to talk about like this piece of it, because you spoke to it, when something is so tied to our sense of safety, which I don't want to get into like a whole religious tangent about just like how much that messaging, it was really so ingrained as far as like literal life or death. It could be that, it could be that you're wanting to explore outside of like what your belief system is, outside of what your family believed, or it could be in your interpersonal relationships where you realize you don't give people the full truth of who you are. And I think I just am finding so many of those micro moments where in the moment I can hear like the previous response and then I can feel, and there's a very different frequency, that's the best word I can put to it, in my body. The truth just feels clean.
Truth
and it
hits like peace.
Almost just feels like, they may like it, they may not. But can we talk about how when you're starting to step into that, the actual fear, because I think this is what stops when you're at that cusp and you're listening to us right now and you know that this message is for you, it's hitting for you for a reason. But the thing that stops you is like when you go to that person in your life or when you're in that situation, in my physical being, it feels like life or death. It feels like truth may equal death. How did you start to cultivate the trust in yourself to be truthful in those early moments?
I love this question. And I was like, this is what I do when I have answers. I like mark so I can remember. And I had so many thoughts. I think one thing that you give as an example is a perfect answer to the question that you're asking. And it's cultivating that relationship with yourself where you're no longer self-censoring. So you, in this case and scenario with religion, you're having an internal dialogue where you're saying, this is what I thought to be true. And this is what I'm curious about now. And you're allowing both, and I have chills, you're allowing both of these experiences to live and exist. You're not saying, oh no, this isn't, I can't think this, I can't think that. There should be an internal safety you're creating within yourself. In your own mind, you should allow your thoughts to be and express and be experienced. So for me, that looks like any thought I have. It's not like I'm taking it seriously. You know, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to shave my head, I'm not like taking it seriously, but I'm like, wow, that was interesting. You know, I am bearing witness to the thoughts that I have. I am holding them with non-judgment, with allowance, and with peace, because if we cannot allow our thoughts to be, no one else will. If we can have non-judgment to ourselves, people will have non-judgment to us. So finding that internal confidence, that internal safety within ourselves to experience, believe, to play around with thoughts, beliefs, and ideas is how we're able to do that in the world. The reason why people lie, or the reason why people are dishonest for connection, is because they've been trained to do that. When we are young, for most of us, you know, we're like wanting something from our parents. They're telling us no. We have a meal in front of us, say an example at dinner. We're full, we're done. Our parents are telling us to bypass our natural desire to be full in our bodies and continue to eat. They're saying, finish your plate. So that's just one example of how they don't want us to listen to our internal voice or our bodies, because we have to do what society says, which is eat or finish the plate. So there's so many different cases and scenarios where our parents have trained us to not listen to our inner voice or listen to ourselves, where we have had to choose the safety of our parental relationship over our own authenticity. And the best parents are going to help you cultivate that relationship with yourself and your authenticity. But I think the way that we can really be at peace with who we are in the world and ourselves is by allowing the experience of our thoughts to be and live with them without judgment. We create this spaciousness to allow them to be through meditation. I know it's like annoying and, you know, overplayed, but I was
Turns out it works.
I had to go back. I was actually on the plane, and I always am in my mind just kind of thinking about how I can express things more clearly or drill down and distill things so that they're more easily understood. Because I can be so heady and I can be so existential and I could be out in outer space. And so I was thinking about, okay, if I was to tell people that they need to create space within their thoughts, what would that first step be? And it's meditation, where you have the breath, you have the pause, where you have the thought of, I'm going to change who I am for this man. I'm going to shift for this person. And then you can say, whoa, what's that? Instead of doing it unconsciously and shifting for the person and then going home and being like, oh, I wasn't myself. I didn't feel truthful. I felt whatever. You have the pause to choose the action. So you right now have that spaciousness and that pause of like, wait, this is how I was with religion and faith. But there's a pause and there's something new for me. And then I can look at that new for me without judgment. And I can say, what else is new? And as a last part about your story that's so powerful is that, just like me, when you have that breakdown moment of everything falling apart, the life that you envisioned, the life that you wanted, the life that everyone else wanted for you, the life that was on paper, when that is gone, that is when you have the deepest opportunity for the most truth. Because then you're going from your own unique code, your own soul, and not what your mind or ego or, you know, idea of what you had out in front of you.
That is like the most perfect way to describe the feeling of what the last year has been. And I don't think I had that perspective right away, because in the middle of it, I know you've had your own versions of it. It's so jarring because, and maybe you can speak to that. It's like, what part of ourselves is it actually shocking? Because it was anchored with this knowing that I wasn't, like, there was a part of me that was not scared at all. And then there was a very, like, I keep using like hand motions, like on the surface, the part of me that felt very attached to the safety of what I thought I had and wanted. But then there was such a deeper part, like the soul part. And you talk about this a little bit in the book, like you talk about the soul and just really what that is. Wasn't scared. It was weird. I felt like this last year, it was this coming together, and I just walked myself through the process of having to process through the parts that were really afraid and activated and all of that, and just integrate that. And I'm probably still in the process of integrating it with the part that was like, no, we knew all along it was going to be okay. It's actually better than okay. It's the best thing that ever happened.
Is that
but
not
in
the
the
best
moment,
feeling in the world though?
It's the best feeling in the world, and you don't get it unless you actually go through.
No, honestly. And now I'm like, God, I don't want my life to burn down to get that feeling.
No.
Like now that I have that attachment, or that now I have my soul and that connection, like you're talking about, I'm like, there is no better feeling on earth than being walked through hard things by your soul. By that voice within you that's like, I know where we're going is beautiful. I just have to take you through this. Like me as the deepest, most spiritual being, I'm just like, I will go through any fire if I have that connection and I hear that voice. Like I remember one of the hardest moments of my life. It was like 2020 time. And I remember being in my bedroom and I was struggling, ego death, relationship, friendships, public figure identity, so much. Everyone was going through their own thing. It wasn't like I was the only one. And I remember walking across my bedroom right by my dresser. And I remember being like, dude, I don't even know if I can make it. And my soul being like, you don't like this, but I love this. This is where I grow. And I just heard the voice of my soul so clearly remind me that my soul organizes by what I need and not by what I want. I want to have a life of comfort and ease and beauty and joy. And I have mostly that, but it's like, that's not where I grow. And that's not where I really find who I am. And that's not where I get that connection to myself in a way that I never want to lose. And I think it's so normal in life to have that soul feeling and then have the parts come up.
Yeah.
So the way that I work with most things is through internal family systems. Have you done internal family systems? Yeah. The best. So internal family systems, for anyone that's listening, is a psychotherapy technique. You can do it with a therapist. It's created and founded by Dick Schwartz, who was a therapist that discovered that the brain likes to think in personified like multiples. So as the example for me, when I was going through my divorce, my soul knew. My soul was like, there's something better. But what was also happening was a part of me that was like, everyone's going to judge you. They're going to think you're weird. Like they're going to think something's wrong with you. There's another part that's like, I love this man. Can I do better? You know, all these things. So the way that we can support ourselves in becoming free and finding the truth is by being with the parts. So I can sit with the part of me that's like, this man was my future. I love him. He's so meaningful to me. And I could be like, girl, it's all good. We got it. No matter what, him or not, we got it. We're here. I can be with the part that's judging myself for the decision or whatever the things are. And that takes time, that takes attention, that takes care, and that takes non-judgment. And back to the voice, this is when we really are with the voices within. Because once we can get clear and purify and soothe and understand the voices within, that's when we can really be the clear channel for the true voice of the soul. And the true voice of the soul is the most authentic part of us. It's the part that people connect to. It's the part that people really want to hear and be with. And when we think about authenticity, it's the voice of the most clear part of ourselves that magnetizes people.
Yeah. And that's what was the next thing I was going to ask is how that ties into, like, when I think about the Powerhouse women community, maybe your community as well, it's like these are women who all know they're here for a bigger purpose. And I think we go in this pursuit of the exterior thing that we think is going to bring the feeling that we're talking about, but then it's really the going through the process of refining your truth. We'll just call it that then all of a sudden becomes that. It's like a friend and I were just talking yesterday before dinner. Aisha and I were talking. We're like, it's that part where like we know you're going to get to the part where you have all the material things, only to realize you didn't want them in the first place, and then you're the most magnetic person you've ever been. But you kind of have to go through that initiation. So what I want you to speak to is, for the people who are listening who know they're meant to be seen and heard in a bigger way, why is it worth going through this process of discovering their truth? How does that impact our ability to grow an audience, to grow a business, to create the external success that it's also okay to want? And I think our souls want it because it's sending us on this process. It's just, again, the soul's like, ha,
I know.
Gotcha.
We've all done that where it's like, we all know that being rich is not what's going to make us happy, but we're like, let me just find out for myself.
But let me make sure.
Honestly, let me get to the top. Do we really know? I'm like, I've seen some good things and I want them. So we all know that feeling. We all know that the true happiness is not found in that, but it can be part of the process for sure. So the reason why we have to go through the thing to find the authentic truth and to find like the truth of who we are rather than just kind of going external first. So when we go external, when we go for validation or we go for, the likes or the Instagram followers or the whatever, which I'm totally fine with, usually that's a part of us or our inner child that's really seeking something, not our soul. The most magnetic person is going to be led by the soul, is going to be, their soul speaking. That's when we feel fulfilled. When we actually have the voice of our soul being seen, being heard, being experienced, that's when we have that connection of the outside world is seeing what I know and feel internally. And until that point, it really isn't it's the never ending loop of wanting more, needing more, desiring more, because it's that inner child that's so hungry for actual connection, but feels like it gets it from the external. So for a lot of us, we were validated and loved and appreciated if we were getting straight A's, if we looked a certain way, if we were good, if we were quiet, if we were performing in the right way. So that part of us has been metabolized or believes that's how we get acceptance and love. But until we can give that part of us acceptance and love and come back to the soul, we're always going to be seeking for it on the outside. And I know for me, I work with this still. I'm someone that I'm deeply connected to my soul and I'm on my path, but there still is a part of me that's like, being successful is how I get love. Yeah. Being seen is how I get love. But until I truly myself believe I'm successful and seen, it's never going to be reflected on the outside, because my subconscious beliefs and my energy is saying, I'm not successful, I'm not seen, please see me, please validate me. And we always have to do that internal work to validate and see ourselves first.
Yeah, I think it is a lifelong process.
Yes.
Okay, so how has this played into you now writing and launching a book?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a whole different way of using your voice, sharing your voice. But then there's also the business part of it. Like, we're speaking to entrepreneurs. It's like the promotion of a book, and there's allowing yourself to be seen and supported. How has your deeper work in connecting with your authentic voice shown up in the book process?
Yes. So I think the journey for me with the voice was first with the podcast. So we started Almost 30 in 2016. And I never knew that the voice would be my tool. I never knew that the voice would be the thing that reaches people. I never knew that I would be someone that makes money from my voice. And that's first through the podcast. I had always sought to be someone that was made for more, that was doing more, but I didn't really know the voice would be my thing. So I really started with cultivating the voice through the show, and then started writing more, as we kind of continued. I knew a book was in our future, but I kind of put it off because I just had judgment about it. For me, what I've noticed on my path, and this is like vulnerable and not my favorite part about myself, but I always have judgment about the things that I want to do.
That you're like meant to do.
No, for sure. Like
if I reject it first,
no, for sure,
then they can't reject me.
No, I coach women now 1-to-1. I literally, years ago, you would have heard me be like, oh, you're a coach, you're going to tell me what to do. I was so much judgment about coaching. Now it's like my favorite thing ever. Even like the book, I'm like, oh, you just are going to I'm the worst. But I knew it would happen, and I did want it to feel authentic. I wanted to feel like I had something to say. And what I love about my path, and I think this about yours too, is when you connect with your soul will lead you to what you need to do when you need to do it. We could have written a book in 2018, 2019, because when you have a following of any kind, people want to, write a book as a business.
Well, I'm like, and other people want to monetize it.
Exactly.
And that's how the industry works, which is beautiful. We're so grateful for it.
So grateful for it.
Yeah,
so could have written a book a long time ago, but I didn't have anything to say. I would have been like, the voice of what I would have said would have been so much different. So we found our agent, a few years ago. And when she reached out, it was just one of those things that reminded me in life, that when it flows and it's easy and it's right, it just happens naturally and easily. And it actually kind of was a scary thing because it happened so perfectly that it showed me where so much of my life had been inauthentic and not out of, you know what I mean? When something happens like that.
Totally.
Like the best agent in the world, the best process, the best, book deal process. It was really beautiful. Writing the book was stunning with Lindsay, my best friend and co-host. But what it's brought up for me has been a lot around the promotion process. I can be in my little house writing, expressing, emoting, using my voice. I can tune into my voice. I can express it on paper. But when you have to use your voice to ask for favors, to receive, to, ask for support, to be clear about your needs and your wants, that's a whole different story. So I've even really had to work on the voice of me as someone that's receiving support, the voice of me that's asking for what I need, the voice of me that's clear about my asks for friends and community. And I'm still really struggling with that. I'm probably like most of your audience, and I feel like givers. And I am the first one to support anybody that I can. I'm the first one to help any of my community and my friends. But when it comes to me needing support, whether it's promoting the book or supporting the book, it's been really challenging. So it's brought up a lot for me. I would not say that it's not been a growth edge. I would not say that I haven't struggled mentally. But what I always come back to and what I've had to anchor in is that this book is really good. I am so hard on myself. I am like, everything could be better. My Virgo rising is everything could be better. I leave anything with Lindsay and I'm like, could have said this, could have said that. This, I'm like, oh, it's actually an amazing book. So that truth is like what I need to anchor on. And I think for anyone that's doing any projects, putting themselves out there, businesses, whatever, it's like outside of the noise of what anyone else says or does, if they support you, if they don't support you, if they show up, if they don't show up, come back to the truth. I know what I'm doing is right. I know my business helps people. I know that I help women. I know this will support people. And that's where we really have to find our internal compass and anchor of our own truth and just continue to come back to that.
Yeah. It's so relatable. I was just having a call with a group just a week or two ago about this, about how, like, especially when we talk about wanting to welcome in more abundance, it's an energy of receiving. And it's like, we can talk about that all day long. But the moment someone compliments you or says, how can I help you? And you're like, no. I see it all the time. I'm like, no wonder this is like still an area that will always continue to be a growth edge. And
totally.
A growth, just an area that I will always find new layers.
I would love to speak on that a little bit on my journey with receiving abundance and receiving. So in my process of my marriage, I was hiding so much. I was not speaking my truth. I was just hiding my greatness because I was in a situation where we had created a dynamic where we were both keeping each other small. So after that, when I just found my soul and myself and had like a glow up in a lot of ways, I really learned to receive love and compliments and support from my friends. So, the women in my life complimenting me and showing me kindness, I receive all of it. At my birthday, my first birthday post-divorce, I did a comedy show where I did a comedy set in front of my friends. We went out to dinner. Like, it was like 60 women in LA just having the best time. And I soaked in every freaking second of it because I had earned it. I was like, no, I made the hard decision for myself. I chose myself. I'm choosing myself in this moment. So I've earned this ability to receive so much love and so much gratitude and so much, just adoration from the people that I love. So I was practicing receiving with the people that love me. Yeah. And I believe in our capacity to receive love and abundance. It's like you have to sort of continue to push the bounds of what's possible. So we're not going to go from being someone that can't receive a compliment about our shirt to receiving $1 million as a gift. Like, you really have to metabolize it. So I was like, I want to metabolize all the love that the people have for me in my life. And also, I no longer want to deny them. Yeah. I remember Natalia, one of our dear friends, she said to me one day, she's like, you give so much that it's almost like you put up a wall. She's like, you do not receive anything. And honestly, as your friend, it feels like a wall. And there was a part of me that felt like if I received, I had to do more for them. Like, I could never just receive because I was worthy of receiving. So I worked so hard on metabolizing the people that I love's love that it's helped me to also grow in my ability to receive abundance and energy and money because my worth is increased. But what I'll say just about the book process to show a comparison, because there's a part of me that so deeply believes that I'm not successful. That part of me is like, absolutely not. Will you help me? So we have to be mindful about those beliefs that we have, the neural pathways that have been created for these beliefs, because that's what's creating and validating the experience of that thought. So because I have a thought that's like, I'm not successful, I'm going to create the reality that says I'm not successful by not asking you for help, by, expecting to be disappointed by people. So the first thing is really just metabolizing more love and appreciation from friends, making it easy, like putting yourself in situations where you can just be loved up, and then having that be a barometer or having that be part of the stretch for you to receive more love and abundance on bigger scales.
Yeah. And that's such practical advice. And then I think as I started to realize the correlation, everything that you're saying, such similar stories, like the more we dive into it, is in those micro moments also anchoring it in, because you talked about like the neural pathways, like it actually is, it has to connect the dots for the pattern that I want to reinforce. So in just receiving a compliment, even noticing like discomfort showing up in my body, and also then just saying, thank you. And then in my mind, like saying to myself, like, that was safe to receive that. Look, that was so safe. And over time, it actually started to feel different.
Yes.
But here's what's been beautiful about, I think, learning to receive on that level is it's almost neutralized it, where I don't get so high on the highs, and therefore I don't really get low on the lows. And I think that's like the self-restoration process that starts to happen as you build the trust, as you build the connection with the voice, is you're actually less susceptible to, I would say, some of like the shadowy stuff that comes along with maybe not feeling truthful, of like the fear of being criticized. Is all of it kind of resonates as just sort of like,
Yes.
And that I didn't realize how that was actually the place that I all along wanted to get to. But I thought I could just have I just want everybody to think positively, and I only wanted that. But I was too hooked into that, like needing that validation, that then the flip side of it just stung so much. The layers of just everything that you're sharing, I really hope that this is piercing people's hearts the way that it is mine as you're talking about this, because this right here is, it's like if there were kind of like one cheat code to embodying what I know so many of us really are connected to, that part of ourselves that knows we're here to do something really profound. It's in this. This is like the resonance of it.
And the women of your community are so lucky to have you and to have each other, because where I grew up in Ohio, I didn't have access, and said with love, I love where I grew up. I didn't have access to women that could see me, that could help me see myself. And I always say with my friends, like, we help see each other when our vision's blurry. It's like the women of your community are so able to speak into women, to like build them up, to like help them see the truth, and to have people in our lives that help us kind of recalibrate to the truth of who we are and see ourselves clearly. Because I believe so much of the compliments and the love and the validation oftentimes is the truth. Like, people are amazing and incredible and capable. And when we can, it's not only building people up, it's helping them see the reality. Like when I work with women as a coach, I'm like, I'm not building you up, dude. I'm literally helping you see the reality. Like all of the women of your community are incredible, profound, like powerful, kind, loving, empathetic, here to do big things. And when we can really kind of let go of the lies of the voice of the inner critic, or the voice of the part of us that makes us feel like we have to do so much to be loved or validated. It's like, then we can really, really see the truth of who we are. And just the point of the validation thing, a little story. I remember I have a beautiful, one of my best friends, an amazing speaker, an amazing orator. And she is someone that whenever I'm around, she builds me up so much. It was almost like I was addicted to it. Do you know what I mean? I almost was like fueled by her validation of me. And I remember noticing that, where I was just like, I am fully using her as like a crutch for my confidence, and fully using her as a crutch for my sight. And I was like, how can I take what she's saying in and not deny it because it's true, but also find my own internal? And I think that's when we can really have the most impact and confidence, is when we can find our own internal and still like not getting mad about relying or using, like, I'm so grateful for that, but really having our own anchor.
I mean, your level of self-awareness to even be in that moment and realize that pattern is...
Dude, the self-awareness will kill me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, honestly, my inner voice is the best, but sometimes I'm like, can I just have a moment? Can I just like take these compliments? It's
Again,
like, oh, you're addicted to that now. Like,
the depth is fun until you're like, you realize there's no end to the depth.
There's no end. No, sometimes I'll
have
voices where it's like my inner voice will be like, oh yeah, you think you're special? Well, everyone is like, and I'm like, no, I want to be special this year. No, like literally my internal voice in the last year has been like, oh yeah, that's the next step is you not thinking you're so special. And I was like, fuck, I really like feeling special right now. Yeah, literally. I was like, I want to feel unique. Let me have this year. And it's like, next year we're not special. I'm like, God.
It's so real. I mean, but women, just the way you can speak to it. It's
but
so
women, one thing I love about women, and this is such a weird thing to say, but I'm going to hopefully make it make sense. And I see this in the women I work with, is the fact that women have spent most of our lives criticizing and judging ourselves and hating ourselves can actually be our biggest advantage. Like the fact that we are so critical, we are so judgmental about ourselves. If we can make peace with that voice, that inner critic, that part of us, we're unstoppable.
Yeah.
As an example, that voice for me, you shouldn't say that. No one's listening to you. No one cares what you have to say. If I can take that and be like, okay, what would it look like for me to learn how to be a better speaker? What would it look like for me to prepare? What would it look like to use all of the things that you think that I'm not good at? How could I make myself even better? And we can really use all of the judgments and criticisms that we have about ourselves if we can pull them apart and see them like with neutrality as our superpower.
Yeah. I was, so the latest rabbit hole, because my whole algorithm is basically just more therapy for myself.
Oh, totally.
Is this whole concept of like just really what true detachment is, and like, you know, really being able to detach from what other people say and understanding that that's their perception, that's their reality. But like the true place to get to isn't just to write it off or be like, oh, that's not true, but to be like, okay, well, where's the part that there is an invitation in that? Where's that's where the true power has come from, and being able to just be with essentially what we're talking about is just like the duality, the contrast of both of it. I'm just going to take a hard pivot because I really do want to talk about the book. Yeah. I think like as we're diving into all of this and realizing like as I was reading it, I've gotten halfway through, I got an advanced copy. I feel so lucky to have gotten to like process it and really, I think, read it from the lens of someone who's now I'm in early 40s, but thinking back to the version of me who was in my late 20s, early 30s, being able to really tap back into the confusion, the standing on the precipice of so much change, and also realizing that the version of me now needs this book just as much as the 20-something, 30-something. Right. But also
I was reading it at our audiobook and I was like embarrassed. I was like, I'm still struggling with burnout.
But also I think it's speaking directly to, I think, the period of my life where I started to become, now that I'm thinking about it through the lens of our conversation, more connected to that soul part. That she was like really leading me on a beautiful journey that I didn't know I was going on. And had I had this book as kind of this manual written by these like two beautiful older sister archetypes who are like, we got you. It's fine. But also I want to speak to, you know, those of us who are just in seasons of change, because that's really what I'm getting from it is it's just this guidebook for understanding the nuances of when you're on the precipice of change. And change is like the one thing I wrote down. This is what I loved. I wrote down so many great quotes, but this is the one that just like really stuck out when you said, who you are is always changing, but your relationship with change actually sets the stage for your relationship with life. I don't know if that was the intention behind writing the book, but that is like very much, very much like what I have been so impacted by as I'm reading it. So what is your greatest hope? Who did you have in mind as you were writing your chapters? It's co-written by you and your bestie, your co-host on the Almost 30 podcast. And I loved that duality as well. But like, as you were writing, I'm so curious to hear who you had in mind. Was it like a previous version of yourself? Is it the women you work with? Was it a combination of the two?
That's a great question. And I think in business and in life, I think people can either work to their archetype of the person that they're serving, or I've always been someone, I serve previous versions of me. Yeah. Because I find myself, if I'm trying to serve an archetype outside of myself, I'll kind of lose the plot. I'll be like, what does she want? Where is she? So I really wrote this for the younger version of myself. But, to be honest, when I was reading the audiobook in New York last week or 2 weeks ago, I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, I am still in this process of change and of transition.
Yeah.
Whether it's my relationship to burnout, whether it's my relationship to my body, whether it's my relationship to purpose and career, like so much of what was in the book as the guide for people that are turning 30 still stands. A lot of the themes that we go through in life in our later 20s, our Saturn return period, which is really when this book, when the podcast started and the book is really meant for, still stands for us in life and is part of the larger lessons in life. So for me, the girl or the woman that was in my later 20s, I was so desperate to feel like my life had meaning. I was working in the corporate world. I was in a relationship with someone I had been to college with, long-term relationship, not my husband, and then I was living in a big city where everyone said, I should live. I was doing all the things that everyone told me I would do to make myself happy. And I was crying every day in the cry room at my work.
There was a cry room?
I made a conference room a cry room. I branded it.
I'm like, that is very forward thinking.
I was early branding.
Company
literally
had a cry room.
I was like, guys, I'm going to transition to my cry room. I was just miserable.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel like my life had meaning. I wanted to feel like I was made for more. I know I'm made for more. And so I wanted to have that experienced. But that feeling, and I'm sure a lot of your community can relate, can sometimes make you anxious or depressed. It's not always motivating. And so I was struggling so much with my mental health during that period that I remember one morning waking up in my bed and having a split second before my anxiety started again. And my anxiety was, what are we doing here? What's the point? I don't matter, da. And I remember having that brief moment and I was like, oh my God, there's a snapshot of what's possible for me with a peaceful mind and a peaceful mindset. And I walked out of my room and my best friend was on the couch because she was staying. And I told her how I was struggling. And she's like, I've never seen you like this. Like, I've just never seen you struggle. And I knew in that moment that it was either like death for me. Like I was not on the path of mental health in a really bad way. Or it was like me burning it all down. And so my late 20s was burning it all down, leaving the relationships, leaving the friends behind, leaving the city behind, leaving the job behind. I went and lived in Patagonia for a month off grid. Like I just fully sent it. Like didn't make sense to anyone, wasn't logical, but it was what my soul wanted. Yeah. And I really had to push the bounds of who I was and what I knew. I'm not saying anyone needs to do that, but the reason why I went so far was because I had to recultivate a relationship to change and transition that I felt like was exciting and that I felt like was beautiful. And the more in life we can be okay with the fact that change is constant, it's never ending, nothing will ever be the same, and that's beautiful, the better. Yeah. I have realized that if we want to live the life of our dreams, if we want to be on the highest timeline, if we want to be the future version of ourselves, that means our life needs to change now. That means it all needs to go away. If I want to be a woman that's living in Malibu with my man and my kids, that means I can't live in my house now. That means I can't have the same job. I can't have the same patterns. I can't have the same beliefs. And the more we can get excited about that and have confidence about that and feel good about change, the better our life will be, the better our mental health would be, and the more we're able to make the impact in the way that we want.
Yeah. What is your greatest hope for the book now that it's about to, as if people are hearing this when we release it, the book comes out next week. You can get your hands on a copy. When you think about, have you had that moment yet where you think about the girl in her late 20s cracking it open, probably in the Midwest?
Oh, my girl.
I mean, she's our girl.
Yeah, literally. Right?
What's your greatest hope for what she'll take away or feel when she reads it?
I want every woman to know when reading the book that they're not behind, they're becoming. And that you are truly on the path that is meant for you if you can just meet life in a true and authentic way. And that it is all happening for your greatest good. The soul knows. You've talked about it. Although it's been painful, your soul knows. And that feeling of that connection to yourself and your soul and of possibility is just, there's no greater feeling. Even if I'm in the darkest time, there's no greater feeling than feeling connected. And I want every woman to know that their dream life is possible on the other side of them being able to navigate and be with change.
It really is a book that every woman deserves to read.
Oh,
and I
bless.
feel like it's such a great book as well to read in groups of women that you want to go deeper with.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's why your community is so powerful. Mine is because they are women that want to go deep.
Yeah.
We want to find the truth. We want to seek the truth. And I think the themes in it stand the test of time. Like I was talking about too, themes around the body, themes around purpose, themes around money, themes around burnout. It's like, I've come so far since my late 20s, and everything in the book is really going from my rock bottom of totally unaligned life to a life beyond my wildest dreams in this now moment. It's like we can always just continue to meet ourselves in the deepest way.
I just love talking to you.
I love talking to you.
I mean,
feel
this
like
could
I just
be a
want
4-hour podcast.
No, honestly, I'm like,
but there is something else that I wanted to announce officially here. I don't know if we'll announce it on social around the same time, but you're going to join us at the Powerhouse Women event this year.
I was like, my girl, I need to be there.
Yeah.
Anything that you do, I'm like, yep, I'm in.
Yeah.
Count
it's going to be the most fun. So we're going to get to go into so much more depth around this.
Oh, I admire you so much. Everything that you do is just like, I just want everybody in your audience to know that you are such a grounded, amazing, kind woman. And as soon as my book came out, you're like, what can I do? How can I help? I have literally people in my life that I've bent over backwards, done everything for. And like you, we've met like a few times and we're like, how can I help you? How can I support you? Like, it's so meaningful to me. And that is another example of, I'm going to metabolize this support from you. Of course, I want to be a support for you however I can. And just also giving the potential for opportunity and love and support from people that you would have never expected. You know, kind of me releasing the expectations from certain people and like allowing the possibility of other people showing up. But I cannot wait. Like, I can't wait.
And in the context of our conversation, just like acknowledging your ability right now in this moment just to allow yourself to receive, that there's nothing else I want back, nothing else. And I think that those are those anchors, right? Where like you rewire the neural pathways just to say like, no, this is safe.
Yes.
This person
I'm
doesn't
doing it
want
right
anything.
now. Because you're saying it and I'm like,
you're like,
yeah, literally. And I'm like, I'm going to text her after and see if she wants to whatever.
Are you sure?
Yeah, literally.
But I think it's also in the transparency, like even though ours is a newer friendship, we have so many mutual friends. We like this podcast is our first official time getting to like go deep into the crevices of so many more rabbit holes I want to go down.
I know.
And I think the foundation that it set already, just with you saying, hey, here's the thing that I realize I struggle with. So like, I'm going to notice myself wanting to like give back. I think even just the invitation to bring that transparency into conversations with friends, I mean, there's so many, I feel like this episode has so many practical, tangible, little tips that when you add them up, actually make you, number one, connect more to your soul. But it's actually how the book was written too, is like these very actionable things where you can flip to a page to say, okay, what's a quick little meditation that I can use to just drop back in? So I want to make sure people know where to get it. It's called Almost 30, very on brand, a definitive guide to a life you love for the next decade and beyond. And it really is, it's for anyone. And I'm talking to people in this audience. So it's for you because if you're here, what I know about you is that, you know, we're all almost something. We're all in this process of becoming. All of us are on this journey to step into the next version of ourselves. And that's a process that doesn't really end. So thank you for writing it. Thanks to you and to Lindsay, my namesake.
Yeah,
I already love
my
her.
Sister.
I'm like, just already.
Yeah, you're like, thanks
she
to
spells
me,
it right.
Me and you.
Me and
with
me.
the E.
With an E.
Yeah.
So my regards to Lindsay with an E.
And her mother.
And her mother.
Yep.
Who spelled it right.
Lindsay. She's Lindsay.
Oh, is she?
No.
Okay, she
there's
spelled
Lindsay
it right.
with an A.
And also to the Lindsays out there, we love you too.
We love you too.
We love you too. But just thank you for going through the actual life experiences to be able to bring this wisdom and to put it into such a digestible way. I'm so excited for people to get their hands on the book. Is there somewhere that if people buy it, it helps you more? Is there like a place that's ideal for people? Do you have bonuses that come along with the book? I know there's the Saturn return guide.
Yes.
Anything you want to share about that?
So basically with the book at almost30.com/book, you can get our Saturn return guide. So the almost 30 period, 27 to 30 is your Saturn return, where Saturn hits the same part on your natal chart and just brings up everything in life for review. It's also the time period when you become conscious. So in the guide, it will direct you and show you where it impacts you specifically. So my Saturn's in Capricorn. So there's specific elements of my Capricorn and Saturn that has impacted me in my life, purpose, career, etc. So in the guide, it really breaks everything down for people in a more specific way. And then we also have a masterclass. So the masterclass is really making the book more 3D, sharing insights and stories that we didn't put in the thing. So that's at almost30.com/book for people.
Okay, perfect. And we'll link all that in the show notes, of course. So, okay, one last question. And this is such a fun one to get to ask you, I think, on just with the depth we got to go into in this conversation, is we just ask every guest at the end of the episode, what is a recent win, or we just call it a powerhouse moment. It could be anything big or small, something you want to pause and celebrate yourself for, because it's like that reminder for all of us listening to pause and celebrate, especially if it's kind of like the insignificant thing that actually was a big deal and you just breezed over it and didn't take the moment. So when I ask, what's a recent powerhouse moment that you want to celebrate with us? It could be anything big or small.
I have 2.
Okay, great. You can have 2.
I have 2. I know. One's personal and one's business.
I love that.
This is me too. And I just can't like lie or not be honest. So one is related to dating and relationships. So I recently started to see someone, and where it's been a powerhouse moment is for me, I can catch myself in the future. I'm like, you know, what's going on? Is this my person? You know, They have, just future tripping outside of the present moment, outside of what's really happening. And I have had continued moments in this connection where I am in the present moment, where I'm staying in the here and now, where I'm allowing things to unfold without being too far in the mind. And I've just been staying in the body and staying in the joy of it and the pleasure of it. Because I've noticed that when I'm too far in the, is this my baby daddy? What about this? What about, just in that, and I'm not in the truth of what's happening here and now, and the trust that everything that's happening here and now is in the best interest for me, then that's when I really get stuck. That's when I blow things up. That's when things just kind of are hard. So I'm staying in the present moment with the connection right now, which feels really exciting.
That's huge.
And I think within the book process, the thing that I just have found to be such a win is I was struggling so much with my mental health as it relates to feeling like a failure, fear of being let down and disappointed, all the stories that come up when you do something big. And then I remember being in New York City recording our audiobook, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I just completely let go. I'm like, whatever happens is meant to happen. Every interview, everything we do is meant to happen, and I'm not going to force or push for anything else. And I just had a moment of just release and let go and surrender, and the anchoring back into how good the book is. And it took me a few weeks of like complaining and whatever I was doing. And I just had the moment where I was like, I'm done.
Wow.
And so those quick moments of being done, of surrender, of presence, like I would have taken so much longer of that mental game. I would have, just been so much more in the mind than the experience. And I'm so proud of myself for being able to be in the here and now.
That's so beautiful.
Thanks.
Well, this was a new friendship unlocked. Really.
I know, honestly.
You are such a beautiful soul.
There's still, the before recording conversation is still here for me that we will bring up right after this.
Exactly.
And I just feel so honored to be connected to your community, because so many of my friends have worked with you. So many of my friends have done the masterminds. Like, I've seen the summit. I've seen you just in your magic and in your purpose. And it's just been so beautiful to connect with you. This conversation felt so deep and real, and I felt so supported. And so thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming to our podcast.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us.